Do not adjust your screen, I am actually wanting to talk about Gravekeeper today. And the reason for that is we had a new card announced today for Pharaonic Nightmare in, I'm going to try it, Etermakina Carnord. This monster is a level 10 machine with 3,000 attack and 2,500 defense, and it has the following effects. Cannot be normal summoned or set, must first be special summoned from your hand or graveyard if your opponent has activated a monster effect in the hand or graveyard during this duel. You can only special summon this monster once per turn. The effects: once per turn, if your opponent activates their monster effect, you can make this card gain 1,000 attack. And 2, if this card is sent to the graveyard, except from the hand or deck, shuffle it into the deck. Now, why would I be wanting to play this in a Gravekeeper shell? Well, the reason's Necrovalley. So, Gravekeeper completely revolves around Necrovalley as a card. And because of that, it becomes very difficult for you to access a lot of the resources that other decks can, since you are shutting off your own graveyard as well as your opponent's. However, this card can special summon itself from the graveyards by a condition and not by an effect. So this monster special summons itself the same way that the Bestial Rebellion does, which means you can activate it under Necrovalley. It's not an effect to summon, it is a condition, which means it completely bypasses Necrovalley's effect to stop you from moving cards from the graveyards. Also, the effect to shuffle itself back from the graveyard into the deck, if it is sent essentially from the field to the graveyard, cannot be activated under Necrovalley. This means that if you can get yourself in a board state where you have Necrovalley and you have access to this monster, and it can special summon itself because your opponent has activated one of the relevant effects, you can special summon this back every single turn to have a 3k body to just beat over your opponent's cards. In a format which is very graveyard heavy, or effects have to be moved from the graveyard, think like Pearly equipping spells from the graveyard, think Tyrannosaurus doing anything whatsoever, this can be a pretty strong combination to be able to pull off. And that's the idea of this list. So, yeah, we're playing this guy and just a normal Gravekeeper's deck. I'll quickly go through the list. We're playing 3 Commandant, this searches Necrovalley, 2 Heretic, this is a Towers if you have Necrovalley on the field, 1 Spiritualist, it allows you to fusion summon, 3 Fenrir, it's another big guy that doesn't care about Necrovalley, 3 of this guy, 3 Necrovalley, 1 Terraforming, 3 Royal Tribute. Really cool card to be able to throw down the first turn. Just now, Necrovalley Royal Tribute, all of your cards are gone. Pot of Extravagance for drawing cards. Necrovalley Throne, this allows you to either search for a Gravekeeper's monster or allows you to immediately normal summon a Gravekeeper monster. 1 Cyber Emergency, this is a light machine that cannot be normal summoned or set, so it is a way to search this monster. I'm playing 1 because I found when I was testing I wasn't finding this monster nearly enough. You could also play Foolish Burial since this card can summon from the graveyard, but I think 1 Cyber Emergency is probably fine. 2 Gravekeeper's Trap, this also allows you to search for Gravekeeper's monsters, and it's also searchable off of Necrovalley Temple, which is cool. 1 Imperial Tombs of Necrovalley, this is essentially Judgment if you have both a Gravekeeper and Necrovalley. Necrovalley Temple is a continuous trap. While you, a Gravekeeper monster and Necrovalley on the field, monsters your opponent controls lose 500 attack and defense, and once per turn during the main phase, if you don't control a card in your field zone, you can activate a Necrovalley from your hand or graveyard. This allows you to get your Necrovalleys back from the graveyard, which is quite cool, and if this card is destroyed by the opponent's card, you can set 1 Necrovalley spell trap. So I was lying, you can't set Gravekeeper's Trap Hole or Gravekeeper's Trap, because this grabs Necrovalley cards. Might be, it can grab Imperial Tombs of Necrovalley, however. 3 Strike, 3 Torrential, 2 Metaverse, and 3 There Can Be Only 1. Extra deck, doesn't matter. We're playing 3 Supernaturalists to summon off of our Spiritualist. Dark, Light, Outer. You can't really use these with Necrovalleys on the field, but there is a hypothetical situation where you have one of these on the board or something else. You can link that off. And then you just special summon this back and you just have extra bodies. SP Little Knight, Unicorn, Access Code, Baguska, Dweller. You could hypothetically make rank 4s. Top Electric Bomber Dragon, exact same reasoning. You could make this potentially, if you manage to get enough bodies on the board, and then special summon this back and just nuke everything. Same with Bania, Phoenix, and Cerberus are just guys. Side deck, going second cards, and Judgments. That's basically it. So for the rest of this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some games. I played some games with Sam Carver, and yeah, we'll get into them. So this, I'll show you both hands, is us against Tyrannosaurus. Sam hasn't played Tyrannosaurus all that much, so don't expect perfect play. But I just wanted to play against a deck which is actually relevant at the minute. So he starts by special summoning his Fenrir, activating the effect to search a Tyrannosaurus Kashtira. From here, he normal summons his Reinhardt and sends a copy of Tyrcash to the graveyard to mill 2, hits a Scream and an Agido, and he is going to search for a trap, and he is going to mill us both for 5. He hits a bunch of cool cards, and we hit a bunch of spells and traps. He hits a Sharon, so he uses Sharon's effect, puts himself back in the King of Swamp back to go for a Graffer. This obviously plays around Nibiru, etc. He then uses 2 Elements Kashtira to banish another 2 Element Kashtira, and mill 3 more cards, to which he only really hits the Rhino Heart and the Malicious, with another Mali in hand. He special summons back this Rhino Heart, sending a Suliak, and activating the Suliak effect to search for a Sharon. He then goes for an IP Masquerainer, I believe. We'll see. Yeah, an IP Masquerainer using the 4 and the Etermakina Carnord, and then pitches the Bedora to summon a Sharon, and then overlays for a copy of Time Thief Redoer. He builds the 3 cards of a Sharon because he forgot, and he hits a Gravekeeper, a Fenrir, and a Foolish Burial Goods, which is going to allow him to get to his copy of Pellerino using the Gravekeeper. From here, he activates Perolino, and he searches for a copy of Havnus. Our hand's actually not that bad, it's just 5 trap cards. So we pass, we see Royal Tribute, but no way of Necrovalley. He activates Reader, we set 5. He goes, effect, banishes the Reader, activates the Sharon and the Rhino Heart, shuffling back the Destined Hero Malicious to go for a copy of Dangerous. And special summons back his Rhino Heart, and then goes Chilling 1 Perolino, Chilling 2 Rhino Heart, after sending the Havnus, Chilling 3 Havnus as well. He pops the Strike with the Perolino and searches for a copy of Suliak off the Scream he mills, then sends the Merly off of the Rhino Heart, which is going to allow him to use the cards in his hand to go for a copy of Kaleido Heart to hit another back row. He does this, spins another guy, and we go off to his turn. So by the end of our turn, we only have left set a Torrential Tribute, a Strike, and the Air Committee 1. This really should be an OTK if we didn't already have Lethal on board, which kind of forces our hands to use the TC in his draw phase. He lets it resolve. He uses Bedora first to spin back to Elements Kashtira, Suliak, and Scream. I should potentially strike this to stop the Pellerino from outing the TC Boo, but the issue is the TC Boo still leaves over 8k on board with the Pellerino boost. But Sam doesn't realise this, and he goes Fenrir to search for a copy of Elements Kashtira, then special summons it by banishing a Scream in the graveyard, if I remember correctly. Yeah, and then he goes Chilling 1 Scream, we go Chilling 2 Torrential, clearing the board, and sending 3. This obviously triggers the Kaleido Heart and the Rhino Heart and the Deer Cache. Sending another 2. Special summoning the Rhino Heart, sending the Havnus. Special summoning out the Kaleido Heart, which is going to be able to spin the last back row. And at this point, we might as well scoop it up because the last card is Strike and it's not going to do anything. And he definitely has enough to kill us. Going into the second game now, we get to go first, which is always nice. We open up Commandant Strike, Judgment, Pop Extravagance, and Necrovalley Throne. We Extravagance, banish 6 to draw another 2 cards, and we draw a Torrential and a Necrovalley. We activate Necrovalley, activate Throne to search for Spiritualists, normal summon the Spiritualists, and use the effect to fusion summon into a copy of Supernaturalist, because this is going to allow us to search in our end phase and also protects itself and Necrovalley as long as they are both on the board. We search for a Commandant in the end phase off of the Supernaturalist. Sam starts his turn and special summons a Fenrir, uses the effect to search, to which we have to strike because it challenges the board. It then goes Foolish Burial Goods to search for a copy of Suliak, to search for a copy of Elements Kashtira. You obviously can't use the Suliak to banish in our graveyard because we have Necrovalley up. He goes to King of the Swamp and realises he sided out Polly because he's bad at the game. He then normal summons Rhino Heart, sending a Tear Cache to mill an additional 2, trying to see some form of outs. I'm not entirely sure what he's looking for, but he has to have something to out this card. Activates Scream, searches for a copy of Suliak. This would be able to challenge the fusion monster on our side of the field to stop the Necrovalley from being protected, which means you can chain this with a Perolino to out the board. But right now he's just going to have to end on this board. We draw for turn, and it's Metaverse, essentially another copy of Necrovalley. He activates Suliak to try and negate our Supernaturalist as we're trying to search in the end phase. We have to Judgment this because we can't have our Spiritualist be negated. After this, the Suliak is going to trigger and is going to allow Sam to search for a Twilight monster. He's going to search for a Sharon. We normal summon Commandant. He's big because of Necrovalley. So we go to battle phase, beat over the Rhino Heart, and then beat over the Tear Cache, and we will set our copy of Metaverse. He goes for his next turn. I search in the end phase for Heretic. Activating Scream, special summoning Sharon by pitching this copy of King of the Swamp, and sending some cards, and then Scream also triggering to send another 3 cards, making our guys just a little bit smaller. Hits a Kelbeck and hits a Scream. He decides to use them here. I'm not entirely sure why, but I guess he's just trying to see more names, but ends up milling his Harpy's Feather Duster. He does challenge the board right here with the Divider of the Herald in his hand, being able to send a Fairy to make it a level 6 and make a Baron to potentially beat over the Spiritualist and then pop the Necrovalley. So we have to Torrential here, but our Supernaturalist can't be destroyed by all card effects while the Necrovalley is in the field zone, which means we get to keep our fusion monster despite the fact that he is losing his entire board. He hits a Guido, mills some more cards. He's got no cards left in deck at this point, so he has basically lost the game. We draw, normal summon Heretic, try to boost it, but he's unaffected by all card effects. We boost him back down, go to battle phase, do 5100 damage, and then we go to the end phase and search off our Heretic and search for another copy of Commandants. From here, he draws a Fenrir. This does challenge the board. He goes battle phase, attack, activates the effect, and we have another Solemn Strike to deal with that, which ends the game because we can go to battle phase and just punch over for lethal. So we go into a game 3 against Tournament, which isn't the worst thing I've ever seen, and we are going second in this game, which is considerably worse than going first. However, that's a hell of a hand from Sam here. He's got a copy of Zodiac, a copy of Crime, a copy of Trivikama, King of the Swamp, and Malicious. So we're going to start here by activating King of the Swamp, adding Poly, and then passing turn, not even setting the back row. We go on our turn and we activate Necrovalley's Throne to search for a copy of Commandants, activate Commandants to search for a copy of Necrovalley, activate Necrovalley and then normal summon our Heretic and special summon our copy of Etermakina Carnord. The first time we're seeing it in this game, since our opponent did activate King of the Swamp in hand, we can special summon this guy and we can go to the battle phase and get in for 4800. Afterwards we're going to set TC Boost, Strike and Torrential and pass turn to Sam. He actually opens up a card he can use, so he special summons this Tournament Kashtira, sending Crime. This is going to trigger our Carnord to increase his attack by 1000 since a monster effector is activated, and then he's going to try to activate Rhino Heart, sending a card in hand, but unfortunately we're under Necrovalley, so we cannot. He attacks the Spiritualist, which doesn't gain 500 because he's unaffected, which is quite upsetting, but the Tear Cache is able to clear it. From here, we just go to battle phase, punch over the Tear Cache. We've got a 4k guy. The attack gain is permanent, so if he activates another monster effect, he's going up to 5k, which is quite cool. Still bricking. We go to battle phase, punch over, and that is the end of the game. So yeah, we managed to take a match off of Tournament here. Did brick in game 3, but yeah, we managed to win that game 2. All with Engine. Going to our next game now, and this is also against Sam, but this time he's moved on to Monarchs. He's decided combo isn't for him, and he is going to play some old Yu-Gi-Oh! We start by activating Pot of Extravagance after winning die roll, activate Terraforming, grab a Necrovalley, and we have this Royal Tribute in hand, which looks really cool. So we'll normal summon the Commandant, set all our cards, activate Royal Tribute, and we take out the Eidos from our opponent's hand. This is the end of our turn, and we end with a copy of Necrovalley Temple, Torrential Tribute, and there can be only one. Something that's not particularly great against Monarchs. So this is a pretty good hand from Sam here. He has 1-for-1 Pantheism, Domain, Tenacity, and March. We're going to start by activating Pantheism, sending this copy of March from deck to grave, and then we can activate the effect of Pantheism. Oh, we can't because Necrovalley. So what we're actually going to do here is we're going to set one and we're going to pass. We see a copy of Fenrir and we're going to go to the battle phase since we can't summon it, since we control this Commandant, and we're immediately going to pass. We get to an idea here, so we're going to normal summon the idea and use the effect of special summon an Eidos. This gives him an additional tribute summon, so I feel like I have to torrential the board at this point to ensure that he can't go into one of his tribute summoned monsters, and he can't. We draw a copy of Tombs. It's a little bit too late since our monster is already off the field, but we can drop this Fenrir and search for another copy and go to battle phase doing 2400 damage to our opponent, and we can set this Tombs in case we draw a Gravekeeper's monster on our next turn. Sam activates Stormforth and summons Vanity's Fiend. That's a big issue for us, because having a 2400 monster with no special summoning is going to be a major issue. We see another copy of TC Boo, and we pass since we can't summon this Fenrir. He goes to the battle phase again, attacking with a Vanity's Fiend, does another 24. We find a Heretic. We just pass, because we want to get into a game state where we can top deck a Torrential, set it, and normal summon a Heretic to clear the Vanity's Fiend, but unfortunately we just don't have time for that. He Tenacity shows the Majesty's Fiend to get a search and search for a copy of Return of the Monarchs, activates the Return of the Monarchs and passes turn. We draw a copy of Carnord, which would have been great to be able to summon. Unfortunately, we can't do that. And he goes and bats into our Heretic with the Vanity's Fiend, and we find the third copy of There Could Be Only One. And we lose that game against Monarchs. Going into game 2, though, we are going first again, and we have significantly better cards in our deck after siding. So we're going to start with this copy of Pot of Extravagance, and we're going to banish 6 and draw 2, sorry. We are then going to special summon this copy of Fenrir, search for another copy of Fenrir, and unfortunately we actually have to pass here because we have none of our other Gravekeeper cards to make this Royal Tribute live. Sam starts by activating Domain and revealing an Erebus, reducing its level, and then activating Return of the Monarchs and using Stormforth, tributing the Fenrir to summon a copy of Erebus. Chaining 1 Erebus, chaining 2 Return of the Monarchs searching a copy of Aether, and Erebus sending a copy of Pantheism and Prime Monarch to spin a random card from our hand. Let's hope it's not the Fenrir. It's not. It's one of these copies of Carnord. From here, he activates Tenacity of the Monarchs, revealing the Aether to search for a copy of Pantheism of the Monarchs. We're then going to activate Pantheism of the Monarchs, sending this Prime Monarch to the graveyard and draw 2 cards, seeing a 1/1 and a Majesty's Fiend. We're then going to activate the Pantheism of the graveyard, revealing 2 copies of Stormforth and 1 copy of March. I decided to give him the Stormforth because I think March is going to be significantly harder for us to deal with, especially with these 2 Dark Holes in our hand. This leads Sam to activate 1/1. Then realising he sided out his Aethers because he didn't want them in, going second, and setting a card and going to battle phase and doing 2,800 to us directly. From here, we're going to activate Darkhold to clear the Erebus, and then we special summon a Fenrir and use the effect to search for another copy of Fenrir. On the resolution of this, Sam is going to activate the Prime Monarch, banishing one of these spells, activating the Monarch's Stormforth, banishing a spell, and tributing over the Prime and the Fenrir to summon an Aether. I get a little bit too confident here before he's able to resolve his chain. He activates Return to search for an Erebus, then the Aether to send 2 cards, and actually summons a Dark Samor to try and stop us from setting cards. We have another Dark Hole, so we special summon the Fenrir, then we special summon the Carnord, since he activated the Aether in his hand. Activate Fenrir to get rid of the field spell, and then Carnord and Fenrir directly for 5,400, leaving him on 26, and we set a Torrential and we pass turn. Was that a Torrential? I believe it was Torrential. Yeah, Torrential. Sam here is going to go for his Camouflage card, which is going to draw into another one, and then he's going to special summon it, and then he's going to immediately take it back because it's actually bad to do that. He activates Necrovalley and goes for a Domain and a Stormforth. I decided to give him Domain of the Monarchs, and he shuffles back the other 2. He's then going to activate his Prime Monarch in his graveyard to special summon itself back. Then he's going to summon the Armarforge, then he's going to activate Domain, and he's going to tribute over for a copy of the Camouflage card. This is going to trigger the Return of the Monarchs to search for a copy of Aether. He's going to go to battle phase, and he's going to punch over our Carnord, since the field spell is going to boost it by 800, making him 32. I go to shuffle back my Carnord before realising Majesty Fiends actually negates it, so it's going to stay in our graveyard. From here, we can activate Terraforming and search for a copy of Necrovalley, and then we're going to activate Necrovalley and activate this copy of Royal Tribute, which is going to get rid of all of these monsters in his hand while the Majesty's Fiend is still negating them. And then we can special summon back our Carnord, since this negates neither player can activate monster effects. This is not an effect, this is a summoning edition, so we can do it even with Majesty's Fiend on the field. We're going to go to battle phase, but we're going to punch over the Majesty's Fiend for 600. Then we're going to attack with the Fenrir, trigger the effect of the Fenrir to banish the Prime face down, and then get in with the Fenrir for lethal. We then go into game 3 against Monarchs here. We are going second, they're going first. We don't really care about our extra decks, we don't really care about the Domain lock, but it will be difficult to out if he manages to set up a Vanity's Fiend. He starts with activating Pantheism and sending the Prime Monarch, activating Tenacity, revealing Erebus, and searching for a copy of Return of the Monarchs. From here, he activates Return, activates Domain, and activates Pantheism, revealing 3 copies of Stormforth and adding it to the hand. He is then going to activate the effect of the Prime Monarch in his graveyard, special summoning it back by banishing the Tenacity, and using the field spell to reduce the Erebus, and then tribute over the Prime to special summon itself, sending adding an Aether off the Return, and then sending a Pantheism and a Prime off the Erebus. And from here, he can activate Erebus' effect to send a card back into our deck, and that is the only monster in our hand, which is a little bit of an issue. We draw for turn, it's another Solemn Strike. We activate Part of Extravagance to draw another 2, and this is allowed to resolve. We activate Lightning Storms as we try to face up monsters, and this forces out a Solemn Judgment, which is nice. We then set 4 cards, activate Necrovalley, and activate Royal Tribute. He activates the effect of Aether, the Heavenly Monarch, in hand to special summon itself by tributing over, and then the Domain allows to stay. We then realise that he can't activate the Aether because he can't banish from his graveyard because we have Necrovalley up, so he puts back his card, and the Aether hits the graveyard. He just has Domain. We have to pass and allow him to have this Domain, this Erebus on the board. We have to find a way to out it soon. We draw a Spiritualist. This isn't going to cut it, but if we draw another Gravekeeper's monster, the fusion will be able to deal with it. Goes to battle phase again. We take another 2800, and we top deck a Torrential. We activate Necrovalley's Throne to search for a copy of Gravekeeper's Commandant, and then we are going to set the Commandant and set the Torrential Tribute and pass. We can't really use the Spiritualist to go into the fusion here because Domain is actually locking us out of our extra deck. He goes to battle phase, punches over the monster with Erebus, and passes turn again. And we draw a Fenrir, which deals with the entirety of the board. We special summon the Fenrir, use the effect to search for another Fenrir, go to battle phase, attack the Erebus, and banish it face down, and then get in for 24, leaving him on 1600 attack. From here, he draws for turn, gets a Pantheist of the Monarchs, uses the effect to send the Domain, and draws into a copy of Vanity's Fiend. He then tries to activate Tenacity. He realises Vanity's Fiend does not have the right stats, but he can activate the Monarch Store Force to summon this copy of Vanity's Fiend. Fortunately, though, we have a copy of Torrential Tribute, which is not only going to deal with the Vanity's Fiend, but is going to stop the return from searching, since it checks the something or other on end phase, or on resolution. Yeah, the tribute summon monster must be face up to activate and resolve this effect. This means he can just set Solemn Judgment and Stormforth and pass. And we go into our turn now. So we have a Spiritualist, a Darkhold, and a Fenrir. We special summon the Fenrir. He's forced to Judgment it, since that would be lethal. But we have the Spiritualist we can normal summon, go to battle phase, and kill Sam. So 2 matches there with Gravekeeper using Etermakina Carnord. He didn't feature as much as I would have liked, but when he was on the board, it was very helpful just having a big guy who can deal with big threats. Is this deck going to be competitively viable? Absolutely not. But is this a card that potentially makes Gravekeeper a significantly better deck? I think so. One thing to note is this is the first time that there has been a card that must first be special summoned from the hand or graveyard. From all previous effects that resolve like this, this is a summoning condition and not an effect. However, there may be a time when Konami just says no, and they might say you can't summon under Necrovalley. But from all precedent we have currently, there is no reason that you won't be able to summon this monster under Necrovalley in your Gravekeeper strategy, if that is something you're interested in. Anyway, thank you all for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and we'll catch you guys in the next video. See you later.